As you grow your business, you're likely starting subscriptions to things left and right like Showit, Dubsado or Honeybook, Flowdesk, Riverside, and Kajabi, just to name a few. To get the best deals on your needed software and easy to understand info about why you might need that software and if it's right for you, head to elizabethmccravey.com/tools. This is my robust resource page full of the tools I use to run my business and what I recommend for my students and customers. You'll find everything from website tools to financial and legal tools, and even my go-to business bank and credit card. This page is free to access and just about guarantees to save you money with all the great promos and discount codes I have for these companies. So before you hit subscribe in that software, go to elizabethmccravey.com/tools to see if there's a deal to help you save a little extra money. Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, an online educator for entrepreneurs, website designer, wife, boy mom, and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want to dive deep into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a sustainable business that fits your unique lifestyle while standing out in a crowd, then you are in the right place. I created a multiple six-figure a year business in my early 20s, and now in my 30s, I'm still running that successful multiple six-figure a year business on just part-time hours now as a working mom. I'm here to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe that the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, website design, personal branding, mindset, time management as a busy parent, scalable and passive income, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. I am so thrilled to introduce you guys to Kara Duncan from the Kara Report on today's podcast. So this episode is gold, y'all. I just finished listening to it and I learned a lot. And I have a to-do list now full of some things, like important SEO things to do for my own business. I literally took some notes as I was listening. And Kara is really just brilliant. So fun fact, Kara is on my podcast team and she's been my podcast manager for about a year and a half now. And when I pitched the idea for these guest episodes to her during my maternity leave, I was like, by the way, will you also be one of the guests? And I have a lot of topics picked out that I think you'd be great to teach on. And she said yes. And then this topic was one of the ones I was like, oh yeah, I feel like you have a lot to offer here. So Kara's been a longtime listener of this podcast, a template customer. She's taken my course, Podcast Success Blueprint. And like I said, she's part of my team as well in my business. And she's such a vital part of this business. And she's just so sharp when it comes to blogging and SEO. So Kara is sharing 8 strategies for SEO blogging that most business owners are skipping. And I would add, like, most business owners are like unaware of, perhaps. Again, I feel like I learned a lot from this episode myself. These are tips you really won't hear other places. And she has someone who has really helped me rank with my website and my blog post specifically for this podcast on Google. So she's someone really, really to listen to, and she gets granular with these tips. So be sure to go to the blog post for this episode to get links Kara mentions and specific things like, at one point she talks about like good blog sizing for images and specific websites to utilize for SEO. So like all of that will be linked in the blog post for this episode, which you can get in the show notes. She also talks about shifts she thinks we'll see within blogging because of AI. And I really loved her perspective on this and like how we can adapt as business owners with our blogging strategy because of so much being written with AI, whether you're using AI or not. And her tip number 8, the final one, I feel like could have been its own episode. I literally messaged her as after I had to listen, I was like, wait, I had no idea about that. That's so fascinating. I need to do that. So anyway, really great episode. I think you're going to learn so much. Again, any links Kara mentions, like to her own website and resources, and also all the different tools she mentions are linked on my website within the blog post for this episode, which is at elizabethmccravey.com/blog, but then you can find the exact link below. So anyway, here's Kara. Enjoyed this solo training.
Hey there, friends. I am so excited to be coming at you from this side of the mic. I'm Kara. My business is The Kara Report, and we're a content marketing agency that specializes in done-for-you blogging and Pinterest services for creative business owners just like you. I also have the absolute privilege and delight of helping Elizabeth behind the scenes of some of her podcast stuff, so I'm really excited to chat with you today. We already have the fact that we both love the Breakthrough Brand podcast in common. And today I'm going to cover 8 things to consider with your SEO in 2025. So these are some underrated strategies or things that most business owners skip. And I feel like we're all trying to diversify our marketing in 2025, right? We're trying to stop relying so much on algorithms. And if you're not there yet, trust me, it's only a matter of time. And we're trying to build our authority and just create more long-lasting marketing, right? The great thing about blogging is the fact that it will continue to work for you long after you've created the original piece. And if you've blogged before, you may have experienced this just by fluke, or you might be an SEO pro. Either way, I think that this episode is going to have something for you. And make sure you listen to the end because the last piece of advice is my favorite and it's super relevant in the AI, ChatGPT, how do we make sure that our blog posts are showing up on that search engine as it becomes a major player? So let's dive in. My very first strategy is to introduce yourself at the top of the blog with a keyword based on what you do. This sounds so simple, but you would be surprised how often I see people's blogs and I think to myself, if I had just landed on this blog post, I would have no idea that this is anything more than an informational site. I always, when I'm writing a blog post, I'm always starting with an introduction and then like an introduction to the topic, and then I'll introduce myself. So XYZ is what I'm going to talk about today. By the way, I'm blank and I specialize in blank, whatever your business is, and then write the content of the blog post and then finish with a call to action. Having that extra keyword is just a great idea for SEO, but even more than that, you would be shocked at how often a blog post is somebody's first initial touch point with your brand. I think a lot of times when we are designing these beautiful, beautiful websites, we are imagining our customer journey as they are landing on our homepage, then they're going to our about page, then they're going to our services page, kind of just like almost in the order that we designed our websites. However, if you are blogging regularly or if you're using SEO strategically, oftentimes, blog posts are the first point of contact. And because we live in a content overload kind of environment, there are so many websites out there that are blogging purely just to provide information. And they're making their money through ads or through affiliates, but that might not be you. You might actually be looking to sell your services or your digital products or things like that. And I think you would, if you looked at a blog post that you have up currently with fresh eyes, if you didn't know who you were, if you didn't know kind of like why someone should buy from you, it would probably be unclear from the blog post. So that is like my number one SEO strategy, but also just human first strategy is to always introduce yourself in every single blog post. I know it can feel really repetitive, but I promise you it's not, because oftentimes this is their first interaction with your brand. The second thing that I think is really a good idea to do when you are writing a blog post is at the beginning, talk about what you want to cover. I've already kind of talked about having an introduction in the blog post, but I think so often we kind of try and like bury the lead. I'm kind of like flashing back to like 2016 and you're looking at recipes on Pinterest and then there's like 8 paragraphs before the recipe because they're telling you their whole story about how they tried their recipe and perfected it and blah, blah, blah. And we just all do not care. I think a lot of times we are still burying the lead with stuff. So one, I think it is important in the first paragraph to make the topic like crystal clear. But even more than that, I like to do a little list. Like in this blog post, we are going to cover X, Y, and Z and make sure that those are all like keyword rich and not vague. Okay. If it's like the number one secret business owners miss, nobody is searching for that on Google. So it's just really not going to help you. Another great way to do this, if you don't want to like go through and like list the things, is to have something like Rank Math SEO. They have a table of contents plugin, or you can create your own. I think there's different plugins on WordPress, if you have the advanced blogging plan with Show It, or depending what your website's through. But having like a table of contents where it just automatically pulls the headings can be a great way to get those keywords toward the top of the page too. The third thing I want to talk about is optimizing images, which again, some of these things sound so basic. However, there was a study that I read recently that said 78% of SEO issues are image related. And I think that's just because we think it's such a little thing that we either one, don't know what to do, or two, we don't think it's that important. But images can actually play a huge role in helping Google understand what the piece of content is about. And that's true whether you're like a photographer with many, many images in the blog post, or you're a business owner that maybe has like 1 to 2 to 5 kind of images. So I'll walk you through kind of like 3 things, easy ways to optimize your images. 1, rename them, and don't rename them after you've uploaded them. I know most kind of website providers let you do that. However, it doesn't always actually translate to how Google is reading the site. So 1, rename it, and you're going to want to rename it with dashes in between. So like website dash copywriter dash location, whatever you want kind of as a bonus keyword. It can be related to your overall website niche, or it can be related to the specific topic. Either is great. Then you want to add alt text, which is just describing the image. Alt text is a great way to incorporate your keyword some of the time. So like, again, if you're a photographer and you have 100 images in a blog post, I'm not going to suggest that you put your keyword in every single image. I would maybe aim for like 20% of the time. If you have less images, I might aim for like 40% of the time to just include your keyword in a natural way. And also remember that alt text is ultimately for accessibility, so we don't want it to just be nonsense. The last thing that I would always suggest you do with images is resize them. So just to kind of reiterate, rename, add alt text, and resize. I personally like to resize based on the width of the image. So I'll typically aim for 800 pixels as the width in a blog post, but it is going to depend on your blog layout. I would say 800 is kind of a good place to start. And then if you find when you're uploading it, it's too blurry or something, you can always increase the width. I personally use bulkresizephotos.com for this. It's free and it's super fast. So that's my recommendation if you're not a photographer that has your own like photo editing tool. The fourth thing that I think is really underrated when it comes to SEO things that can make a huge difference is links. So there's 3 different things that we kind of want to do in every blog post. The first thing is external links to high authority websites. So like if you reference a study or if you reference something that you saw online, link to it, assuming it's not like some sort of spammy website. And then also consider external links to websites that still keep people in your kind of corner of the internet. So if you want more information, come find me on Instagram. If you want more, XYZ, come check out this Pinterest board of mine, watch my YouTube video. Like you have so much content online that's outside of your website, and it's a great idea to link to them. With any external website, so like something that is not on your domain, I would always say just open it in a new tab so that people aren't closing your website to go somewhere else. But that is a really great strategy, and it strengthens the overall SEO of your website. So that's external links to places that are not you, external links to places that are you, and then also add internal links to your content. So this can look like a few different things. 1, at the beginning when you're introducing yourself, or at the end, you might want to include a call to action, like check out my services page, check out my contact page, sign up for my email list, etc. If you're keeping people on your website, those are great internal links to have. But I think one thing that we often forget is to link to all of the other content we've created. If you've been in business for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, chances are you have so much content to link to. So it can be a great idea to link to things organically as they come up. So if you make a reference to, like, for example, in this blog post, if I had another blog post that was like how to optimize images, I could have linked to it in that section. To give you an example, I always like to think of somebody reading a blog. They're going to be in all stages of the buyer journey. So maybe they were looking for a website designer, for example, and they are like ready to contact you or book a discovery call because they have been like looking already. Maybe somebody is brand new and doesn't even really realize that they need to hire a website designer yet. So we just want to make sure we're linking to different ways that they can connect with us in all stages of their buyer journey.
If managing your business's finances feels daunting and you typically come to the end of the month not sure how to pay yourself, or if you're doing the business savings thing, quote unquote, right, then I have a free guide for you. Over my 9 years of business, I've learned some financial skills the hard way, and a few years ago, I developed an 8-step process I go through at the end of each month. This process helps me know how my business is doing financially, pay myself well, and allocate money for things like taxes and expenses, and also document notes about the month that'll help me make financial decisions in the future. Again, I've been doing this process since early 2023, and it truly has changed the way I do my business for the better and has helped me ultimately make more money. And I want to help you do the same. So you can grab this 8-step process literally for free at elizabethmccravey.com/profit. There's a whole PDF guide for you there that you can download and go through for free. That's elizabethmccravey.com/profit.
Okay, and number 5 is have your most relevant blog posts or keywords in the footer of your website. So this might not make sense for everyone. Sometimes you're going to choose a stylistic choice over an SEO choice. We can't make every single website decision for Google. Otherwise, our website will just look like a robot, or, it'll be very formulaic, and we don't necessarily want that. However, if you have some really important blog posts, like let's say like there's a software that you absolutely love that you're an affiliate for, that you've written a great blog post for, that might make sense to have in your footer. If you have a blog post like really introducing like yourself and your unique process, that might make sense to have in your footer. Again, we see software companies as an example, like literally look at any software's website, and in their footer, you're going to see tons of different articles and different pages on their website linked for SEO. So while I don't think that most small business owners are going to want to go that extreme with their footer, I think like strategically putting a few in your footer is a good idea. And while you're editing your footer, it's worth having maybe like a 1 to 2 sentence description of what you do. And if you're a location-based business, definitely make sure your location is in your footer. A footer is like an SEO hotspot because it's on every single page. So that's somewhere to kind of invest more time because it can really impact your website. My next tip is to add more word count. So while I'm not suggesting that you write a 5, 6, 7,000 word blog post, I do think that we need to push ourselves beyond like 500 words. Typically a sweet spot is like between 1,000 to 2,000 words, depending on the competitiveness of the keyword you're trying to rank. However, and this is a big however, if you are using AI to help you write your blog post, there is a good chance, that in order to hit a word count, ChatGPT or other tools will just add a ton of fluff, and we don't necessarily want that either. Humans don't want it, and search engines can see through it. So 3 kind of quick ways to add more to your blog post, or word count wise, and just honestly value wise, is 1, add a frequently asked questions section at the end. One of the shifts that I think we're going to see with AI is we are very, very used to getting very specific with our questions and answers, right? So we're seeing more and more long tail keywords. If before people were looking for website copywriter as an example, now they're looking for website copywriter who's been in business at least 5 years and specializes in this niche, right? Like, I think frequently asked questions is a very good way to get in front of some of those questions that you know people are going to be asking. A second way that you could add word count and value is just introducing the topic better. So if I was going to be like, 8 tips for SEO, I could start by saying like, what is SEO? That's a really good way to kind of like introduce the topic, add some keywords, but it's not fluff, right? It's actual value that might be important to you depending how familiar you are with SEO. And then the third kind of thing that I would do to add a blog post, that if I needed more keywords, is to explain kind of why the topic is important. So I could have told you that SEO is really important because I want you to get leads for your business or sales on autopilot. I want you to invest upfront and then reap the rewards for years to come. I want you to build search-driven marketing terms that won't leave you stressed out about the algorithm, right? Like I could go on and on and on about why I think SEO is important. And I think I could add that to a blog post if I was trying to rank for that. Number 7 is to get your stuff on Pinterest. So Pinterest is one of the major, I want to say like social media platforms. It's not really social media, but it is like free backlinks to your website, right? So if you can, even if you're not going to invest in a full Pinterest marketing strategy, creating like a few graphics per blog post and putting them on Pinterest and pinning them to multiple boards and, adding your keywords there too is a great way to show Google like, hey, people are linking to this website. People are clicking on this website. And that just sends a really good signal to Google's algorithm. So again, even if you're not going to invest in a full Pinterest strategy, even if you feel like, quote unquote, your people are not really on Pinterest, whatever the reason is that you might not feel like investing fully into the platform, for SEO, it's still a really, really great idea to put some backlinks there. And then last but not least, I told you I was going to tell you something that would be super fresh and relevant to SEO in 2025. And that is signing up for Bing Webmaster Tools and making sure to submit your site there. So as of right now, ChatGPT is actually using Bing indexes instead of Google indexes to search the web. And here's what that means for you. If you have Google Search Console, that is Bing's Webmaster Tools is basically like their equivalent of a different search engine. So oftentimes when we talk about SEO, we talk about ranking on Google, but the reality is in 2025, we want to rank on multiple platforms. We want to rank on Bing. And more importantly, we want to rank on ChatGPT. There is more and more evidence that people are heading to ChatGPT first to search for things. And if ChatGPT is searching Bing's Rolodex, we want to make sure we're on Bing's Rolodex. And hey, if you're not using Google Webmaster Tools, I just want to make an aside that it is super easy and free to set up. It's basically like Google Analytics, and definitely do that. And then you can see how your website is performing SEO wise. You can see what keywords and what pages you're ranking for and all of that good stuff. So definitely worth setting up. With both Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools, you can also head to, when you publish a new blog post, you can submit it to these search engines or search engine tools to get your stuff published faster. Google is pretty good, and I should say Bing is pretty good at finding your website organically, especially if you're a regular content creator. But if you're not a regular content creator, if you're new to blogging for your business, if you've been inconsistent, sending your blog posts into these search engine tools as you write them is a great way to make sure that your site is not getting ignored. So that's kind of my last tip that is super relevant to blogging for SEO in 2025. Okay, I don't know about you, but that just flew by for me. So I'm going to recap really quickly with my 8 SEO things. So 1, always introduce yourself at the top of a blog. 2, include a list of what you're going to cover or a table of contents with your keywords in it. 3, optimize your images every single time. 4, add internal and external links to content throughout the page. 5, have your most relevant blog post in your footer. 6, increase your word count. 7, get your stuff on Pinterest. And 8, submit your site to Bing Webmaster Tools. That literally feels like it flew by. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Again, I'm Kara. My business is The Kara Report. I also have my own podcast, which is very creatively named The Kara Report. I would love to hang out with you there. If you head to my website, you'll also find a private podcast called Build It Once, Get Found for Months, where I break down more of how I do this, how I create content that kind of like you build and invest in upfront that can then work for you long term. So I'd love to see you there. Thank you again. And thank you to Elizabeth for having me because this was so fun.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. I hope you got so much value from this episode. If you're a fellow podcaster or you hope to start a podcast in the near future, then you need to check out my program, Podcast Success Blueprint. This course is truly podcasting from A to Z. I cover all the getting started steps like naming your show, creating intros and outros, cover art design, and all things podcast tech. And that's where most podcast courses stop. But Podcast Success Blueprint is literally just getting started at that point. You'll go on to learn things like how to create successful solo episodes and interview episodes, how to market your podcast and grow your listeners, how to create streamlined systems so that your podcast does not take over your life, how to make real money from your show. Yes, real money from your podcast, one of my absolute favorite modules. And we even dive into things like guesting on other podcasts to grow your business and hiring a team to help you manage your show. Yes, it is beyond the basics, and I'm teaching you everything you need to know to grow a successful show that is the top of funnel marketing strategy for your business. Head to elizabethmccravy.com/PSB, short for Podcast Success Blueprint, to get all the details and join this incredible program. I hope I can help you in this program as you build your podcast and market your business. All right, that's it, friends. I cannot wait to connect with you again next week. Bye for now. Need some extra pages to improve or add on to your show website, but you're not in the market for an entirely new template. Been there. Sometimes you just need a little extra help to save you time as you add new things to your website as your business grows. That's why I put a huge focus on creating show and add-on templates to meet your needs, including tons of add-ons that you won't find in any other template shop. From pages to promote yourself as a conference speaker, to pages to house information about your podcast, add-on templates to help you build a quiz lead magnet, favorite things pages, Instagram link in bio so you can ditch that Linktree subscription, and so much more. Head to elizabethmccravy.com/shop to see them all. There are so many more than what I just named, and you can even bundle them together to save more. But as a podcast listener, you can also use the code BBPOD to save an additional 15% off on your add-on or full site template purchase for a limited time. If you are hearing this ad right now, that means the deal is available. So go shop now using the code BBPOD.